guys, I'm gonna do a quick little video on the software that I use to kind of do an initial layout or kind of map out a road that we were asked to look at for a potential customer. And the reason I can show you this on the map is because the customer ended up not closing on this deal, and ended up backing out for various reasons. But the main reason was the land is kind of landlocked, and in order for us to be able to cut this road for the customer, we would need to probably get a 100-foot to a 200-foot easement, and we want to do that all legally, of course, so that we can go through the process, and this customer is always going to have a legally binding document that's going to allow them to use that and access that area. And so what would have happened is, if he didn't have this agreement with the customer to like purchase an easement on the back part of the property, then they ran the risk of the customer's neighboring property saying, okay, you can't access it anymore through there. And then all the money that he spent on building a road or developing a road to get up to the top of his property would have been spent for nothing. He'd be landlocked again. And so anyways, he backed out of that, and he's searching for another property, and he's going to contact us when he's ready to build a road to get back in there. So this was kind of a unique situation, and you can't tell from Google Maps. If you'll look on the left, you see Google Maps, my cursor over here, and what he had is he had a road that came in, and you can follow my cursor on the Google Maps part, and I'm kind of following the road that we would take to get back in here, and that road was pretty much in disrepair. We were going to have to do some work on this dirt road going back in there to even get our equipment and dump truck back in there to haul material and so forth. Initially, when we walked the property with the customer, we parked about right here in the center, as you can see, and we hiked straight up this hill. Now from here, this point, straight up the hill to the point where we would then cut across and get to a property or a building. And I'll see if I can zoom in and find that building. You could actually see it. Here it is from Google Maps. Here's the building right here, and that's where the cursor is. And that's in Davidson County in North Carolina. But if you look at it, I click on that building and I get these lat longs right here. And so if I want to plot that, I use Basecamp. I have a Garmin GPS. It's a handheld GPS that I can use, and I can go through and I can save waypoints when I'm actually walking the property. But we were able to lay this out before we actually went out the first time to walk the property. The initial time we walked it, we came up this right-hand side. He was going to have to get 4 easements from 4 different properties, maybe 5 easements, I don't know, in order to be able to get, like, you can see a little trail right here, and it's just like a UTV or an ATV trail. And he was going to have to get easements of this property all along there to be able to access this area right here where I dropped the point here. And so I suggested us going over here, where initially this is where we parked at, and we walked. You can see the little trail right here. I'm kind of following it up, and it was like a 200-foot elevation gain over about 65 yards or something like that. It was straight up. It was I want to say it was about a 30% pitch, 20 to 30% pitch, going straight up the hill. And I'm like, we can't cut a road in right here. That's just going to be impossible to travel. So there was the road continued on down around here, this little hunting road. And I'm like, why don't we just continue along this road and kind of follow it back here. Now, this is the edge of his property, and it had been cleared some time ago based on Google Maps, but this is all grown back up now. And since then, all of this that you see going down his property to here, all of that had been cleared. And so that was kind of just all we needed to do is just kind of brush cut the edge back here and grade it with a dozer, and we would have been good to go. But he couldn't procure an easement right here, and so it was one of these things where we're just like, all right, he's going to move somewhere else and look for another property. But we follow this road back here, and I was able to walk this line back here and save some waypoints. And had we been able to get an easement, we could have cleared that area right there on that left side until we got to this property here, which was his, or the one he was going to buy. And then I said, okay, now we can follow, a reasonable slope going up. And I was looking to keep it below 10% slope going up, and then do a switchback, and then come around here and come on up to the property. So I was able to lay all this out just in Garmin Basecamp and save the waypoints to my handheld GPS. So we went out there, met him out there, walked it. Coming up through this back side of the property right there was perfect. Up to this point here on the corner where he hit the corner of his property. But then when we started walking the property, we got to about right here, I'd say, and we hit a rock outcropping, and there was no going around it or through it. It was giant boulders, huge rocks. There was going to be no going around it or through it. So at that point, I realized I did not have enough room to keep going back here at enough of an angle that would allow me to then turn around and come up here and then have an easy go back to the property and keep everything below 10%. So I had to basically, because we hit the rock outcropping when we were drawing it, then I saved some more waypoints on the GPS, plotted it out again, and realized we're about 15% slope. And so I had to lay it out with 2 switchbacks instead of 1. And then that gave us less than 10%, based on the grade. And I'll kind of show you how I did that. But so if I click on this, it gives me down here at the bottom, you'll see the lat long. And so with this lat long, I can highlight it. I can hit search, and I can paste my lat long in there. And then boom, there it is. Now you can see over here, it gives me the lat long, and I can hit create a waypoint. So it just created a waypoint right there. It gives me the elevation is 820, so I can say building. And I can look at advanced. So there's my lat long, elevation. I can change the symbol name. I can actually change what symbol's on there. I can put in additional information on it, and so forth. So I can choose a symbol that I want. I think the one I used on this one, I had chosen a deer. But I've got a group of symbols here that I could use. So I could use this little house here, and that's going to change my symbol to a house. So now I can let's zoom in on it. So the lat long I just used that I pulled off of Google Maps right here for this little building there in the center, when I punch that lat long in, then that's what I have right there. I've got that building. And so that's where the building's at. So just using Google Maps, I'm able to kind of go through here, and I know, all right, this section that had been cut before was all his property going back to here. This area that had been cleared back here is wildlife land. So I knew we couldn't come up past about right here where they went to, because it had been clear cut, and his went kind of straight across right there and down. And I knew this was the far back corner at the bottom of the hill for his property, and that's represented by this waypoint right here. And it's kind of cool because if I want, I can go back in here, and let's say I can double click on that deer and go to this position, and I can highlight that and copy it. And if I want to bring that point up here on the map, boom, there it is. And that bottom right hand corner. And so then we knew the rest of it to get down here to this little road that comes back through here. You can see it comes through here, goes up and around and down over here. And like right here is where the road was. And that's kind of where our proposed road starts, right off of there. So then it crosses a little gully right here and then kind of skirts up the back of that. So what we were able to do is we were able to plot this out. And, because we're able to plot this out, then I've got waypoints. And when we went out and walked it, we were able to go up there, walk through this, and kind of go from waypoint to waypoint, use my handheld GPS, and get myself to the point where I'm up here in an area that would be perfect for a little parking pad. And it's right there next to the building, which is about 10 feet higher in elevation, kind of up the hill a little bit more. But this will be a perfect area for a parking pad. And so we were going to cut a road in through here for this guy that came up in this direction. And then, put all the base material down and whatever else we needed to make it, drivable and passable and everything. But we were able to do that and then kind of lay it out. And one of the things that you can do in the Basecamp is you've got map tools here. And so I can click on this measuring tool and click from this waypoint up to this waypoint. And so it tells me, and then we'll go to this waypoint. Now, if you look at these different points, and see if I can get this. It's not going to do it. Each one of these boxes here. So I've got a total of 419 feet from this first waypoint here up to here with a 39-foot ascent. Now, if you do the math on there, it's not hard to figure it out. If you say 39 feet divided by 419 feet, you've got basically a 9.3% slope. So that gives you a percentage of slope that that you have over that 419 feet. So from this waypoint in the corner of the property, which is right over here, the waypoint I just plotted on Google Maps, up to this far waypoint where we're actually going to have a switchback, is less than 10%. It's 9.3 exactly. And so then I know from this waypoint to this next waypoint, that's 283 feet, and I got a 26-foot ascent. So there again, I can say 26 feet divided by 283 feet, then that gives me a 9.1% slope. So there again, altogether total, I'm looking at a 65-foot ascent on just his property, that last corner point here in Google Maps that I plotted, all the way up to this point where there's another switchback. I've got 65 feet in elevation gain over a 0.13 miles in distance. So if I said there's 5,280 feet in a mile, and we multiply that by 0.13, that's a total of 686.4 feet. 684.6. So we said 65 feet elevation gain divided by 684 feet. 685 feet, we'll just say, round it up. We're looking at, 9.4% slope. If you round that up, it's a 9.48. So you say 9.5% slope. So we're still saying below 4%, 10% slope, which makes it a lot more navigable. It's easier to drive and so forth on a driveway. So I'm able to plot this out, and then I go back out there and we take the handheld GPS, we upload it to the GPS, and we go out and walk it again. And then we're able to determine, okay, on this slope, on this path that we've created, from here to here, this right here, from this point across the gully right here and straight up that back line of the property, that was beautiful. It's a very gentle slope, easy to walk, no issue whatsoever. From this point down here at the start where the road is all the way up to here, we were golden. So it was from this point on the corner of his lot going up that we had to look out for rocks, and there was a little gully coming down through here, and that's where this goes across. This is not actually a road or a trail going up. That's a gully coming down through there, and it kind of went up onto his property too. So I had to stay to the left of it when we did this switch back here, and then come up to this point before we turned to the right and came up over here to the end. Yeah, that's how we laid this out. And then we went out and actually walked it to see if there were any large trees, boulders, gullies, anything that would prevent us from being able to have actually cut that road in and making that a reality through there. And like I said, the only obstacle ended up being is this little section from right here at the corner of his property down here to where the road was, having to get the owner of that property to provide a legal easement that he would be able to use and not have to worry about him ever shutting off access to that. But this is what I use. I use this Garmin Basecamp, and this is free software with Garmin. Now, the contour lines I have right here, they're there because I have a map installed on my Garmin GPS, and it is the 24K of the Southeast, and that gave me the level of detail that I needed to be able to kind of lay these points out. Before I ever got out there, I was able to measure these through here and pinpoint them out, and already measure it and knew how far it was between the waypoints and what my elevation gain was because of the contours. Each line is, represents 10 feet in elevation gain. So you're at 700 feet right here, and then you've got 710, 720, 730, 740, 750. So each one of those represents 10 feet in elevation gain as you're going from left to right. So 700, 710. So I knew from this is 690, almost 680. So we're probably at 685, maybe, let's say. Not even quite that, 683. So we're at elevation of 683 right here. And I knew from here to here, I was up to 710. So all I had to do was measure that difference there, but it actually gives me my elevation gain. So I can go through and calculate what my percentage of slope is and lay that out, save all those waypoints over to um, save all those over to um, the handheld GPS, and then go out and walk the property. Now, here's the other thing that's cool too, is I can go in here in the Basecamp. Okay, we're going to export selected user data. So if I hit export selected user data, I had proposed road selected. And I can save this in a KML 2.2 and leave it as proposed road and hit export. And that's under my documents. Now, let's say my maps, Google on Google. So Google My Maps. Now, all right, I'm all logged in here. And I had to edit that out so I didn't have what you weren't seeing me punching my username and password. So I exported this route. So because I had this highlighted down here, and I went up in Basecamp and I said file, and I exported selected user data. So it's going to export proposed road. And so I was able to do that. So we're going to do create a new map, and I want to import what I want. And it says drag a CSV, XL, SX, KML, or GPX. So I could have saved it as a GPX file, but I saved it as a KML 2.2 file. And we'll go to documents, and here we are. And I just drag that KML on there. And boom, there it is. Now you see this is the property where the road actually cuts through this property back to here. And we were getting permission from that owner to cut up the backside of his property off of that road to make this waypoint. Now, I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna move y'all to the top left up there. Actually, I'm gonna go over here to the. I'll put you over on the top right. Okay, so we're over here in that corner. Now I can view this or preview it and switch it over to the satellite view. And look at that. So there you are. We come across down this road, and that's a road that accesses the other properties back here on the left-hand side of the screen. But we were going to go from that road up here, across this gully right here, which we were going to create a little drive across that that will hold up to any kind of weather or rain. Just skirt up the backside of this guy's property, and then start uphill. Switch back to come here, and I'll switch back to here, and then turn toward the building, which is right here. And this will be a parking pad in this little area. And that would have, at no point would they have it exceeded 10% slope. And here it was actually, like 5 or something like that. Not much at all, but you've got about 9 between 9 and 10 going up the rest of the way. And this is where that rock outcropping was, right here across this area, and there were boulders going all the way down to the bottom of the hill over here. And we had to cut it and turn it back in this direction, and we couldn't continue past like right here where my hand is on that map, because going through there there was a bit of a gully that went down through there. and we would have had to fill that in with material to come down this way and go up more, which it would have been better if we were to come all the way to his kind of edge of the property here and then turn and kind of come up this way. But it just, when you walk the property, it didn't allow it. So you've got to go out and walk it. You can't just do this using the software, but you can already have a head start before you ever get out there, just using software like this. So then you load these waypoints up on your GPS, you go out and walk the property, and you can walk your proposed road and know, am I going to have boulders, big trees, anything that's ditches, whatever, anything that's going to present a problem that's going to prevent me from being able to create that access road that we need to create, while you're walking it. And if it does, you can move to the left or right a little bit, provided that it kind of keeps you in that same, elevation gain to distance calculation. And so you're dividing your elevation gain by the distance that you're traveling, and that gives you your percentage of slope. It's your rise to run. So how much are you rising in elevation compared to the total distance of your run going, to the next waypoint? And so when you calculate those out and go through here and you've got your elevation gains calculated, you can lay all this stuff out, and you would know, say his property was laid out differently, you would know before you ever went out there that it was not doable. I mean, because when we came over here, I want to say, like right here, we were kind of parked right here, and there was a trail, and I can bring that up. So this is where we were parked, and he was wanting the road to kind of come up through here and follow this little trail going up the hill to the top, and then cut across this little trail up here. Well, I knew from, looking at it, you're talking about from here up to about the same point where this building is. That's 810, 820. So you're looking at 820, and you're starting from, 650, 660. I mean, if you go ahead and measure that out, and starting right here, and get up to 820. So I'm looking at 162 foot elevation gain over 0.22 miles. So there again, you say 5280, 5,280 feet in a mile times 0.22. So that's 1,162. So 1,162, 162 divided by 1,162, that gives us the 13.9, almost a 14% elevation gain. So that's not the end of the world, but we're just going straight up that hill. So that presents a whole set of other problems of, just going straight up a hill and coming straight down a hill. We don't get a lot of snow, but we've gotten our fair share the last couple months. The last month, we'll say, this so far in January. It's getting ready to snow again tonight. So, them trying to climb straight up that hill, it's not going to be, wouldn't be that fun. Plus, he would have to get all these different properties to agree to. There was a property on this side, a property on this side, and two properties up here. So there were 4 different properties he'd have to get easements from to run that road up there. So that's why we were able to propose this to him and say, look, if we do this, you just need about 200 feet of easement that you could buy from this guy, and then you're able to rock and roll. So that was the process we went through, that we did that. I know it's kind of long-winded, but, this is just using standard technology. And what was cool about this, and I'll bring this back up over here, because this map is Google Maps, I'm able to click on the share button and send that to the prospective client. So I've got this all laid out here and say, okay, here's the proposed road. So he can take this out on Google Maps on his phone, looking at this map, and he can walk this and see, yeah, that's not going to work, or yeah, that'll work, or whatever. And then, we drive out there and are able to do it. And of course, we got a drone. We may fly this with a drone and look for things that might cause issues before we even start walking it off. But long story short, I'm able to share this with the client and say, here's the proposed road. And he may say, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that at all. What? I'm not going to go out there and walk a couple miles through the woods, climbing up and down hills, going through trees and thick brush, if the guy's going to say, no, I'm not interested. So he can look at it and say, yeah, that looks good. And he was, excited about the new proposed plan here, and it was going to be a whole lot better for him in the long run. But, ultimately he couldn't get that 200-foot stretch of easement that he really needed from the one client or the other one neighboring property. So, but yeah, that's what I use. I have the handheld Garmin GPS that I have is it's the Oregon 450. So it's the Oregon 450 by Garmin. It's the handheld GPS. I've had that for a long time, and they're still putting updates out. And it's a good GPS. It's a good solid GPS. That's just some of the software I use. So an approach that I take to it. Make a comment down below. What do you guys do? What software do you use? How do you go about laying things out to try to use technology to save you a little bit of time? When you're out walking the property, you kind of already have an idea of where you're going, and can share it with the customer and give them your vision of how you're going to tackle or approach this. And you know what? If I took a little bit of time, I'm looking at 45 minutes here trying to explain this to you, but if I took an hour and laid this out and the customer's like, yeah, no, I'm good, then that saves me an hour drive down to where this property was, an hour or two of walking around, talking with the customer, trying to figure things out, and another hour driving back. So if I spend an hour and find out from the customer immediately that no, that's just not going to work, then that saves me a lot of other time of sitting out there working with them and that sort of thing. In the long run, it saves time. And could the customer take this and show it to some other guy and say, hey, can you make this happen for less than this guy? Yeah, maybe. But when you're presenting stuff in this manner and you're sharing this information like this, it's safe to say that you're going to present yourself as more professional than the next guy, and they're going to look at it and say, this guy knows what he's doing. It's not his first rodeo, and he's definitely not the clown. So, comment down below, share what you guys do. What is it that you have that you use, and be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. But I'd like to hear what you guys use and how y'all approach or tackle jobs like this, and doing some pre-trip planning before you go out on location, where you're kind of hitting the ground running. You've already got your attack plan laid out before you get out there, and then when you get out there, then you may just have to make some minor modifications like we did, where we hit boulders and a rock outcropping. We knew we're not going to be able to keep it here. So let me know how y'all do it. So that's it for today. Hopefully you guys got a little something out of that. Y'all have a good one.